Greetings. Thank you all for tuning in. If you guys are here, hello, James Brown, of course. And yeah, I'm just not there. Okay, now I'm here too. Okay. All right. We're in here. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going through our history and really correcting a lot of the things that we've been under the influence of misteaching, miseducation, and misdirection. Um, do I have him? I don't think I. Okay, let me unmute. I don't know if I have you muted. I can't unmute your mic. Oh, I don't know. But anyway, So basically, we're going to start off with just the fact of um, our images, the fact that there are numerous images that and money that tell us that the truth about what we've been taught about our past is is not true. Okay, the education that we received was to confuse us and to disinherit us, and that's the fact of that. So the history of Virginia, book 3, chapter 1. Okay, and that clearly says that their color when they are grown up is chestnut brown and tawny, but much clearer in their infancy. Now, all these so-called historians, all these famous and Native American educators, all these Department of Native American Studies, fail to cite some of these books that are historical primary accounts, um, and they don't teach us about this. They don't teach us about chestnut brown and tawny, and greasing and sunning themselves, and nothing mentions straight hair either. So this is the other thing that they fail to talk about in their books. But I'm going to get really deep, and we're going to get really deep into like exactly what has been done to miseducate. This is going to be, we're going to get down, and not even with everything that I have, but just a smidgen of an understanding that I had to go through when I found out that all four of my grandparents were Accomack Indians. I had to educate myself because what I taught didn't coincide with that being true. And I was just, I had to research for myself to give myself a better understanding of what's been told. Another one, the general history of Virginia, New England, and the Summer Isles, also states there very clearly that we were a color of brown. Okay, not tan, but brown. That's the other thing. Okay, we need to be very, very aware of this miseducation that's been, that we've been under the guise of. We need to have a full understanding of this, or we can't go forward without knowing this. Okay, we have to know the truth. We have to be aware of the truth. So that's part of it. Let's see. All right, sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Okay, so basically, we're going to have to change what we are understanding, and we have to look at, primary sources instead of these um, secondary sources. They're not going to help us have an understanding, right? So let's go on to the fact that we need to understand how this all occurred. There is a misunderstanding about who we are and how certain things happen to us, and so we have to kind of clear this up. I'm gonna go to, is two showing? Yeah, there we go. All right, let's go to stream. Okay, so we'll go to slide one. So basically, we have to understand that we were free Indians, and they systematically turned us into Negroes, coloreds, and mulattoes, and that was primarily by war, then by racial laws, or the Virginia slave codes, and then also by debt bondage, just like the same way they impair us today, the same way they get us in the system today, through debt and things like that. We become in bondage. This is how it was done. If you were a prisoner of war, they would send you over to Barbados and then bring you back somewhere else in the continent, sometimes to the same place, sometimes somewhere else. So there you go. The slave triangle of trade was very small. All they had to do was go to Barbados, Jamaica, Bermuda, and come right back to the Americas. The people that were prisoners of war, that's free slave work right there. Very simple. I mean, very simple. And then if you came from Africa, they don't have to legislate into slavery. And the whole idea that they would bring an indentured slave from Africa, come on, y'all. That's a very expensive temporary worker. That doesn't even make sense. Anyone knows who has run a business or anything knows that it is not cost effective to bring an African over here, period, let alone as an indentured servant, as a temporary worker. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Anyway, with that being the case, we understand they had slave codes, and that's a fact. Starting in 1661, they had slave codes that legislated slavery. You don't have to legislate for chattel slaves, right? And let me tell you something. The 1670 law says that the Negroes, Negroes cannot, nor Indians can buy Christian servants. You see, where it has been questioned whether Indians or Negroes, manumitted or otherwise free, could be capable of purchasing Christian servants. See, they did not want us buying the Europeans. We had European slaves. You see, this is on the books as a slave code. These laws are on the books. You can't erase this true history. You can make up all you want, but you can't make up the truth. Children born of shall be born and held in bond only according to the condition of their mothers. All children from slave mothers were forever slaves. That is a law. You don't have to do that if you got my mama from Africa. If my mama came from Africa, you don't have to do that. If you imprison the Indians that were here, that's a whole different thing. Why are we so confused about why? We have to start understanding the truth about history. The truth is right before you. It's in laws, codes, acts, the 1924 racial integrity law that happened around Walter Plecker's time. You could not legally be a Negro and be Indian. There is a law of 1756 which stated that. It said if you have 3 grandparents that are Indian, that's what that says. Let's get wide with it. If you have 3 grandparents who are Indian, you cannot claim to be an Indian if you are Negro. If you are Negro. Let's understand that we were legislated out of our identity. It wasn't, oh, they got, smallpox just disappeared. No. Oh, they just faded away and there's a couple of them left and they got straight hair and tan skin. No, it wasn't that. It's that we were reclassified out of our land and our identities, and we were lawfully removed from our identities. You can't, and then the real horrendous thing is that you got people who are supposedly Indian who are telling you that you're not Indian. When if you don't know, you need to do some research, because the law forbade us from actually being the people that we are. If you had one Negro grandparent, you're gonna be considered colored. I know they don't even talk grandparent. One. But you could be as white as you wanted to be and be Indian. And so most of the Europeans that came over were able to classify themselves as Indian. Is that clear? Carrie, you got anything to say about it?
Yeah. A lot of this stuff is on us for just not knowing shit. I mean, it's embarrassing. Like you say, you got people who go to college, you got people who got all these degrees and stuff, and they're teaching you that you're from somewhere else, making it simple for other people to come over and claim your stuff, claim what your people left for you. And we do it with an arrogance, with an attitude like, you don't think I can do hell I want to do, and don't know nothing. And wonder why your kids want to be boys and the boys want to be girls. You're being erased. And the thing about it is you're the person that's doing it. Because you won't pick up a old book, you won't even think. Whatever somebody tells you, this is the Negro African American now. This is what I'm talking about. And of course, everybody's not like this. But those of you who are, I'm talking to you. This is how you get in the position that you are today. Because you do it. Not even thinking. Africans aren't coming over here saying you're their people. Shouldn't that tell you what's happening? I mean, this is simple. You got all these foreign guys and these foreign girls from other places coming over here pretending to be you. And you normally front them. You normally give them the money to do what they're doing and wonder what's wrong with you. So, yeah, I get exactly what you're saying.
They're starting to say that they are us now because by them saying that, oh, Africans came to America before the Mayflower, that gives them rights here in America.
And the embarrassing part is it.
I mean, they got rights here in America that you won't be able to claim because you're stupid. Because you're letting them be a part of your heritage without even knowing your real genealogy. I'm gonna break this all the way down. We're gonna kill it. We're not gonna stop until we make it abundantly clear what has occurred here.
Like you say, it's all on us. You're supposed to be a people. When people talk about the Americans, if you go to other countries and when they talk about Americans, you should see how their eyes light up because they're talking about you. But you're so stuck in calling yourself trash. It's not what other people think of you. It's what you think of yourself. And you teach your children that they're trash. I had it out with this woman today. She would just not get off. We're black. I'm like, ma'am, you're not black. She cussed me out like most Negroes do. You're calling yourself nothing. You're calling yourself dead. You're calling yourself you have no light. And we get and notice this when you talk to the Negro, they always get mad. That's a question we have to ask why, and we're gonna bring that out tonight too. Why are we always mad when the truth is told?
Why are we so
sorry, I didn't have the camera on.
It's okay. Why are we so comfortable with lies? Why are we so comfortable that the lies we've been told are what we are willing to accept? Why don't we research? Why don't we find out what is really accurately true? Now, let's just look at the Negro people, the Negro colored mulatto people of America, the Amerindians, the American Indians. We go all the way from the seaboard and inward, all the way up from the highest of New England, Nova Scotia area, all the way back up around, all the way to Washington State. Okay, those are us, all the way through Alabama, through Texas, Arkansas, the Midwest, Missouri, all that. That's all us, right? We have to understand that we were in this country, first of all, wasn't as they stated it was. It wasn't some, uncharted area, new world. We were more advanced than, or just as advanced, or actually more advanced than the Europeans area. The Europeans were living in filth. They were starving. They were warring all the time. It was a horrible hundreds of years they were dealing with. Here, we weren't warring anywhere on the level that they were in Europe at all. In addition to that, we were very much aware of plumbing and hygiene, hand washing, all those kinds of things which prevent disease. We were already practicing. We had saunas for women, special places for women. We really had health and science and all the sciences pretty much well understood here. And we had all types of architecture, not just longhouses. In fact, the longhouses were more so spiritual houses than they were dwelling houses. We had stucco houses, brick houses, depending on what part of the country you lived in, and some grass type reed houses for cooler weather. There also are reports, if you look at primary sources, books that were written before 1800 or 1830, you will find books that talk about how our kings had full libraries with European artwork and books, and there were towns that had where the people had summer houses and winter houses. You don't understand your true history because you are looking at the wrong place for it. Now, if you look at the fact that the Louisiana Purchase didn't occur till like 1803. And after that, in 1806, you had Lewis and Clark go to the area above the red line. We're going to use red lines in a different way on this map. Above the red line is the Louisiana Purchase. Post Louisiana Purchase, that's 1806. You didn't hear anything about these Indians until then. And now the current Negroes, that's all they know, especially those that were born in the 50s, 40s, and 60s. We were bombarded with Westerns about these Plains Indians, and we were bombarded with them being the Indians and that being the Indian Wars. No mention of the Powhatan Anglo Wars or the many Anglo-Indian wars that occurred during the first 200 years of this country. There's no mention of that. No mention of these so-called Indians in the plains being in the Revolutionary War or the War of 1812. How about that? These people are reportedly and scientifically Siberian. The jingle dancing that you see at the powwows, that's not American. That's Siberian. The dress, everything that you see just about these Plains Indians is from their Siberian heritage. And then sadly, those that were able to claim Indian heritage on the Eastern Seaboard, those lighter complected people or European people who were able to obtain by government sanction the identity or status of Indian or Native American, they took on the same dress and music and dancing as the Western Plains Indians. Therefore, they are actually mimicking Siberian dancing as well. That is not indigenous to America, period. And even the chief of the Pamunkeys stated that when we were at a function last fall. He clearly said that their dancing was not their dancing. Their dancing came from the Western Plains. Let the truth come out. Let us understand the truth. We will not be able to go forward in this planet until we start discussing the truth.
I think one of the things is, I mean, and it's getting to the point now where we don't have no excuses. When you talk to a Native American, and this is what I'm saying, you got to be smart. I mean, we like to cuss each other out and dog each other out because we disagree. But wouldn't you ask the Native American, Why do they call you Native American? Well, how come they just don't call you American? They don't call Native Nigerians, Native Polish people, Native Greek people. They just call them Greek. How come they got to put Native in front of it? That goes over our head. That goes over our head.
Basically.
And by the time we 30, I'm sorry, cuz we got to start asking questions. We 70 years, 80 years old and don't know nothing. And how are your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids going to survive if you're not trying to learn nothing? And this is important because football season's right around the corner. And you know, when that comes up, Negroes' minds shut down. They're not trying to learn nothing. So this is real serious. You see what's happening in the world today. How are we going to survive if we got the mindset that we have now?
We have to know the truth. We have to teach it. We have to stop this mind control, this whole thing, because the entire planet is vested. This is not the United States. It's the United Nations. This is not the United States. This entire country was started by a myriad of countries. It's not just English. That's a lie. That is a lie. Powhatan had a house built by Germans. There were Swedish in Christiana, Virginia. There were Dutch people. You know, there were all kinds of people all over here from the very beginning. It is not an English settlement or English colony. It is an international invasion, and it continues to be an international invasion. Let's say what it is. Stop lying. That's why every time something goes on in the world, the U.S. jumps in it. Why? Because the U.S. is a united nation. It is not the United States. It is the United Nation. Everybody got a piece of this rock, this stolen rock, because it's not theirs. And they're all invaders and they're all immigrants.
Speaking of United Nations, do you realize how dumb we look anytime we run into the United Nations whining? And we're comfortable. Most of you are mad at me for saying this.
Right.
Do you know how dumb we look running to the people who invaded your country, and you're always arguing and stuff over who got the biggest piece of popsicle?
Right. Absolutely. Why are why are we running to people that don't have any rights over us? Until you realize who you are, you don't know what you're working with. You can't really come to the table correct until you know exactly who you are and what law and ground you're standing on. You sitting up there ignorantly thinking you're African. I know I got some African in me because I did my DNA. You know, whatever you're doing in your mind. Until you are absolutely secure in what your identity is, you're not able to negotiate, and you're not able to actually work this out, and you're not able to win, because you have to know first of all who we are and who all these other people are. Now, these Plains Indians are Siberian. You see, someone sent me that image of the guy playing the flute, or his video. And I was like, well, really? No, baby. I gave her a blues video, and I said, he was playing Down Home in Virginia. And I said, this is in American Indian music. That is Siberian music. You see the picture on the corner nearest the indigenous one? Those are straight Siberians, and they got a full teepee there. A full teepee of Siberian people wearing the same kind of prints that this guy's wearing with his flute, playing so-called Native American music. Now tell me, who's who? Then you're going to talk about you being African, and you got no African dietary habits, no African words in your daggone lexicon of words. American Amerindians as to the entire dialogue dictionary of the entire planet. People don't speak English. They speak American. When they learn to speak like us. When they learn to sing, they learn to sing the way we sing. They don't learn to sing like British people. They don't learn the dictionary of British language. They don't call cops the same thing we call the police. They have different words. Our words are fluid and continuously a part of what we speak. Barbecue, hammock, every time if you really were to examine, the majority of our last names are not from England or any other foreign European land. They are indigenous to the Americas. But you don't know that because you're not researching, right? You're not researching, so you don't know what your last name is. You think Johnson is what? Ain't British? No. You think your name is Upshur and it's English, it's British? No. It's American. And the people that took your name so they could take your land. Your names are more prevalent than you understand. We had slave codes. There were 11 HBCUs. 11 HBCUs before emancipation. So I thought we were slaves that didn't know how to read or write. How you got 11 colleges before the emancipation? Make that make sense. Make that make sense. On the bottom of this document down here at the lower part, those are the actual council general court records of colonial Virginia, which mentions the Accomack Indians. So if Indians were so primitive, why were they in court fighting for land? Explain that. See, I don't know about everybody else, but I need my history to make sense. I need my history to be logical. I need my history to coincide with what is natural and what is recorded in court records and land records. I don't want some person who wrote a book in 2020 or 2011 or 1940 to tell me what my history is. That's propaganda. That's not history. I want to go to the source.
I think one of the important things that we got to think about, what Lisa brought up tonight, is American. The word American. You have to remember that before the English even got over here, the Spanish, the Portuguese was selling down to the Caribbean and Cuba and all that. They didn't say American like you say it now. America. What does that mean? How don't we know these things? I mean, this is Spanish people were over here. They came up with names and how to pronounce words and trying to learn your language. It's not American, it's American. What does America mean? What does it break down to? Everybody in the world knows but us. Ain't that something? Everybody in the world knows who you are but you. America simply means soul people. You can break it down in any translation. It's rich soul, talking about you. But you say, nah, we African. You just hate your African self. That's how we roll.
Right. Yeah, that's unfortunate because everything in history has been remixed. And when you start going to primary sources, like there's a book right here, probably sitting on my table, that says that actually when they arrived here, that Virginia was Virginia. Then they made up some dumb story talking about the Virgin Queen. First of all, she didn't call herself the Virgin Queen. Why would she want that to be the name of a place after? If it wasn't to be named after her, they would name it Elizabeth. They wouldn't name it Virginia. What would that? That really has no close connection to Queen Elizabeth. That's absurd. It was called Virginia. They say it in numerous places. Wagonia, Virginia, Wagonco. Yeah. Let's stop teaching lies. Let's start going to the truth. These people know it and they hide it. And they hide it because of what? Money, because they're professors of Black or African studies, because they're history teachers that got paid to lie all this time and they feel stupid. I don't know. What is the reason that they lie so much? I don't know. But they do. And they need to stop it. They really do. Let's see. Let me remove this. I don't want that one. I'm going to kind of go to my next slide, which is, okay. All righty. So we already had talked about the fact that slavery was a result of war, slave codes, and debt. Okay. And let's also keep in mind that while the Plains Indians were living in peace and harmony and killing buffalo and living in teepees, we were having our houses burned and our children stolen away and the wives and husbands separated. That was going on. Slavery was a result of war. This is called the massacre of Christian Indians. Didn't matter if we were Christian, they still was killing us. And then if you want to think that these people are just Siberian and you want to understand, see, this is the thing that I couldn't understand. Why they look more Asian now than Sitting Bull looked like, or some of the other ones that we saw from the 1880s and the early 1900s. Why do the Indians look more Asian to me? Well, this is why. Because in 1854, Chinese were legally classified as Indians. You had Chinese coming here to work on the railroads. You had Chinese coming here for the gold rush. Recorded. Some of them were quite melanated too. I'll put that out there too. Some of them kind of dark, even though they try to say Chinese are white, but there's a lot of dark Chinese that came to California, and a lot of dark Chinese that was working on the railroad. But anyway, these Chinese were legally able to classify as Indians. Okay, that's why they have an admixture, because there was Asian slave trade all the way to Mexico back in the early 1200s, 1200s, and then they wonder why some of these people got here. There was slave trade. In addition, there was an admixture that began in the 1850s that proceeded to the 1900s, where you have an additional, boom, extra Asian blood, and the right to classify yourself as a Indian. That is a fact. Okay, so also, little known fact is that in 1807, in a report to the England Board of Trade, Edmund Jennings, Virginia's acting governor, stated that before the year 1680, what Negroes we brought to Virginia were generally from Barbados, for it was rare to have not African, he didn't use the word African, Negro ship come to this country. And you understand, Negro is a term that's used for us and islanders. It's an American term. It's not a term used for Africans. They're trying to act like it is now, but no, it never has been. And we're going to show that to be true. Okay. He wrote Negro ship.
Another thing you could ask about this, I mean, all of these people going to college, all of these people getting a higher education. Nobody's coming across this information that she's talking about now?
Because people are directed onto what is supposed to be true. People are directed as to what they're supposed to teach. People are directed into what they're supposed to think. and we comply with that. People write all these books about white slaves and white slavery and the truth about the Indians, and that they're not writing that to as much. You wrote a book about it. African Americans Ain't African is a book you can purchase, written by the Indigenous one. But the reality is that people write books to try to support what they want to believe. I mean, I would be upset if I didn't know that I've been living as a Native American, and then I'm like, oh, you're not really indigenous to America. You're Siberian. You should know that, though. I mean, all the scientific works say that you're Siberian origin. But the part that hurts is, why are you going to deny that the Negro is indigenous when you weren't here for the revolution? And we got all kinds of ancestors that was fighting in that war. We've been here from the very beginning. Why weren't you there when my family was going to court over land? Because we're different people. You weren't there in 1640. You weren't doing that. But you're gonna deny. This is what's crazy. I'm gonna get into how crazy it is. 1619. They actually made this sign in what, 2010? Because why? Because they want to push the agenda of Africa so far up our butts that we can't breathe. Right? This agenda of us being from Africa is so important because when you're really the guardians of this land, they don't want you to know it. They even falsified John Rolfe's letter. He never said African ever. Actually, he wrote negras because it was mostly women, and negras is a Spanish term that they use. Negras. And they were not slaves. They were indentured servants trying to go to work in the West Indies, trying to head to jobs. 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 Why is it okay for us to accept lies from historians? Why is it okay for our schools to outlaw us correcting the lies that they teach? Why is it okay for them to teach our children lies? When I went to school, the first thing I heard was I was a slave. I never heard that till I walked into school. And my big mama grew up on a so-called plantation. Not so-called. No, I don't say so-called because, everything needs to be called into question, and it needs to be, because it really is fraudulent. For real. You got anything to say about this?
I mean, I think it's on us, especially the men. If we're supposed to be intelligent and we're up here, the words we speaking allow these people to feel comfortable on top of your mama's and daddy's graves. You do that. And see, every time you hear brothers talk and you notice that, the white man, that's doing nothing to us. No, it's you. It's you. Because you make all of this necessary. You go back and teach your children all this nonsense, and she's about to show you something from the 1800s. What are those things you fill out for a job? What are those not resumes? You fill out application. You about to see applications from the mid 1800s. Are you being paid?
Right.
How are slaves paid? How are slaves paid? Now, and this is what I'm saying. This is why this pisses me off. You got all these cats that's up here talking and ain't telling nobody shit. All they doing is confusing people so these Ukrainians can come over here and pimp your kids, and you just gonna sit back and say it's okay. Do some genealogy on yourself. I mean, we way past all the bullshit. We way past it. Right. This stuff is right in your face, y'all. And you refuse. If somebody say that you a monkey, you will be a monkey. That's how we get down. I mean, that's how the Negro gets down.
Right, there you go. There you go. I mean, and so yeah, we need to do that. Make sure everybody shows their stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's time for us to start correcting this stuff and not accept it. But also we need to be correcting the things that are being taught to our children and correcting the things that are shared in our schools and not accept this. They need to correct all these lies. They couldn't wait to put up that African American museum. Why? Because they want to send your butt pack into Africa. They want you to be a foreigner in your own land. And people run around worrying about reparations, not knowing that y'all had more white slaves, knowing that y'all was enslaved. They don't know the truth. How can you fight for something when you don't know the truth? If you have not researched the truth, how can you fight for something? You can ask for reparations. What? You can ask for reparations for lynching, for Jim Crow. There's a lot of things you can ask reparations for, but slavery ain't one. Slavery ain't one, son. No, no, no. Mm-mm. That is not the one you can ask for reparations for. What you got to say about that?
You're begging somebody for your land back. Make it make sense. Instead of just taking it back. You would rather fight Lisa or me instead of saying, well, let me go see where my people lived. In Tennessee, along the Mississippi River, one of the major highways through America, we don't even think so. Every town you see in here is named after your people. You want to go live in New York, which is an offshoot of the old York in England. This is how we do it. You drive through your people's land every day. And in some places, you got a lot of our indigenous people there. They still there. Not everybody ran from Mississippi. Not everybody ran from Alabama. Those of us who did, because my family sure did, they were ran out. And we don't even try to go back and learn what happened. Whatever somebody tells us, yes, boss, that's what we do. And these are the Negroes, the educated Negroes that you see. None of them make no sense.
A lot has been done to make us believe who that we are the people that they want us to think we are. A lot has been done to put us in a state of confusion because this is the thing. You can lose track of anything in less than 20 years. In less than 20 years, you can forget, like, okay, when I was a child and we moved, a good portion of the town that we moved into was Negroes, cousins, um, uncles, aunts, whatever, distant cousins, second cousins, all in this town. Now, if you go there, you don't see anybody brown there. If you see someone brown there, they're probably Hindustan. They're probably Pakistan. They're not us, but it was all us. It was so many of us in that town that in the little general store that was in the town, they sold magazines like Right On and Get Right and Soul Power, and they had they had real crazy. They had gossip magazines that was for the Negro people. Like he had like 20 different types of magazines you probably couldn't find anywhere else. But to that little town, he provided those for the community. It was a Caucasian man, and he provided for the youth in the community with all these different magazines for us. But and that town was very progressive in that it was integrated earlier than any other areas. But I could tell you that that's how quickly things passed. You would know that Negro farmers were there, that they owned so much of a very, very affluent county now. They owned so much farmland there. And one was a woman farmer. She ran the farm. Then the other was a male and his wife, a husband and wife, both friends of mine, both people that I knew very well growing up and walked around, saw the hogs and the chickens and that. I'm saying we don't even know we don't know places like New Jersey to have Negro farmers. A lot of us don't have that experience, but that's how fast history disappears. You see, and that's why it's so important that you guys know that just like since we were little, since people in their 50s were little in the 50s and the 60s and 70s, we didn't know what Negro was. We didn't know what we were at all. We did not know. Seriously. And I'm going to show you a film so you can kind of get an idea of how we didn't know. Let me see if I can share a screen.
While you're doing that, can I share a farmer story with you?
Sure.
So when I first started African American, this sister contacted me. So when I first started it, everybody was kicking me in the ass. You just hate your African self. This sister contacted me, and she was telling me about her grandfather. Grandfather had 5 sons. They lived on the Mississippi River. The sons didn't want to be farmers or nothing like that. So after they got of age, they ran to New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Had 500 acres. This shows you how we lose it by just always trying to dick each other over. All the sons moved to all these major cities, got caught up in the city life, had kids, blah, 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 blah. Whatever happens when we're in these cities where we hate each other, we make children, but then we hate each other and try to get over on people. The grandchildren of those guys that left all that that land, they didn't even know they had that land. They missed out on it. That's the kind of stuff. That's normal stuff that happens with us, and you wonder why we lose it all. 500 acres along the Mississippi River. Could you imagine how rich that land was? And just give it up. We don't know nothing about it. That's what happens to us. Lisa, you have the sound?
Oh, you can't hear it? Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, hold on. Okay. You can't, you can't hear it?
No.
I'm not sure. Okay. Not sure why, because my mic's open. Let me see. Um, that's open. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? Okay, I know why you can't hear it. I get it. I get it now. Okay, so I'm sharing screen. All right. Okay, so let me just get that straightened out.
Egos are the most written about and the least understood world's people.
This term, Negro, demoralizes us and isn't detrimental. I feel that it doesn't give us any association past the slave ship.
I think that the first task of people of African descent, whether in the United States or in Africa or elsewhere, is to get rid of this slave named Negro.
This curious word Negro was seldom or never used in Africa itself. And
bitterly cold.
Task of people of African descent, whether in the United States or in Africa or elsewhere, is to get rid of this slave named Negro.
This curious word Negro was seldom or never used in Africa itself. And this word has no meaning, or no worthwhile meaning at all, in Africa. I would doubt myself if it has any useful meaning anywhere else.
What is a Negro? A simple question, but the answer is not so simple.
Oh, that's the point of it, is that we didn't know what a Negro was. We didn't know what a Negro was. Okay. And now you got people telling us, our own people as well as other people telling us we're African. Baby, we didn't know nothing about none of this. Okay, you had people talking about Negro who were African studies professors and African. That was not part of our history at all. Africa was not part of our history until somebody made it up. You see, if it was really part of your history, it would be in your culture. It would be something your grandparents would bring to you, okay? Because that would be part of our lineage, okay? That's how it works. That's how real things work.
Kind of face you got, Bill? That Mandinka face.
Mandinka? What fool stuff's that you talking about? That's African. I ain't no African.
Well, I'm Mandinka. We're proud people.
And I'm American. I'm American. I'm American. I was born here. My mammy and my daddy was born here. And my daddy's daddy. And I ain't no African.
So so you see you see how dumb we look, and then that first clip that you shown, you had John Henry Clark.
Columbus chose to finance the conquest of the West Indies by selling Native American slaves.
Go ahead.
That first image you shown, that first clip you shown, they had John Henry Clark. Now the Negro worships John Henry Clark. A complete idiot. His people are from here in Alabama. They're Indians in Alabama. He taught you that you're African. And many Negroes, especially those black ones, they love him. And if you ever get a chance to watch a film that Wesley Snipes put out called A Long and Mighty Walk, it's a documentary on John Henry Clark. Check out what Nkrumah Nkrumah told him when he showed up in Africa. Simple. But we worship these kids, these cats, and we teach our children to do the same thing. And you wonder why we're in the position that we're in?
Exactly. That's the problem. That's what we're doing. We are letting other people tell us who we are, and they're going to write our daggone stories for us because we didn't know. Quite honestly, we did not know. Okay? It's just the truth. All right. So let's put it like this. Our history is real simple. We can go real simple with this. All you got to do is think of us like you think like the Maori or the Hawaiians or the Brazilians. You see, the Hawaiians back in 1880 looked just like any old Negro. The queen looked like D from What's Happening. I mean, it's just through the intermixing, bringing in all these immigrants, and they're washing them out. It's the islands, they're islands, so it was easy to wash out their Negro color very easily. And indigenous people do wash out easy, like we really do. Like we could change color real quick. That's one thing that's different from the African as opposed to the Indian. The Amerindians, we wash out quickly. And so all these people who were royalty of Hawaii, you don't know that now. Do your people in your family know what Hawaiians look like? Do your cousins, when you do your family reunion, do y'all discuss what the Indian looks like and what the Hawaiians look like just in the 1800s? Y'all didn't know? Y'all didn't know? See, it's just that simple. It's just that simple. Let's also discuss this. That there are so many records that we have that talks about us being the free Negro owners of slaves and free Negroes in this country. We talked about Carter G. Woodson, and although some people try to say he's boule or he's, black supremacist, nah, because during the time of Plecker and during the time of the law of racial integrity, the Racial Integrity Act, he put this together, same exact year of the Racial Integrity Act. Well, Carter G. Woodson put these gems together for us that records all these free Negro owners of slaves. And when you look at it, you're going to find out that a lot of these white people that claim to descend from slave owners are really lying, because the people were colored. They were Negroes. Leatherberries and all these people that claim to be slave owners, heirs, and these people that supposed to be Caucasian. We assume they're Caucasian and they don't correct you. And they try to push that whole agenda that the slave owners were white. But did you know it wasn't like they claimed slavery was, and they were not white in the numbers that they claimed they were. Let's get to the facts. Stop lying. Also, here we have a Freedmen's Bureau letter. It's recorded in a Freedmen's Bureau on Ancestry. On Ancestry, they have this letter, which is about a job interview, a hiring for Hannah, not for work. And they wrote in a record that it was 1866, but this looks like 1806. I'm sorry, this ain't no 1866. This is 1806. But whatever the case, it's for a job. It's not for slavery. It's an interview. It's a job letter. It's a position for hire. What you got to say?
Yeah, so this is my great grandmother. This is Hannah. And this is what I'm saying. This is why genealogy is so important, you guys. This stuff is out there for all of us. We just don't do it. It's just that simple. Then we want to feel bad and say you hate your African self when this type of information is right at your fingertips. She was getting paid 35 cents a week. This is the contract that was written up. How are we slaves if we're signing contracts for work? Anybody? I mean, come on the program. Lisa's put it out there and answer these questions. When we ask these questions, you Negroes don't have no answers. So my grandkids, if I didn't know this and tell them this, they'd be dumb like the rest of these people who are teaching you what they're teaching you. This is your genealogy. Find out who your people are. This is all of us. And I like what the legend of Nigga Charlie said. It's likely Garvey was a scholar of Welsh descent. Excellent. We don't even think of that. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at Marcus Garvey's handwriting, Marcus Garvey handwriting was better than the one that you see in this letter right here.
Right.
I don't think they were teaching Jamaicans and the people in the Caribbean how to write all perfectly and stuff out like that. I don't even think he was from Jamaica. But since they told you he was from Jamaica, you go with that. Do a genealogy. Check your own genealogy. It's going to blow you away.
Absolutely. We have to, I mean, the information is out there. It's like this book that was written by a, librarian, Brooke Miles Baines or Kirk Mariner of the Eastern Shore actually put together this book. Fine historian, he put together this listing of free blacks of Accomack and Northampton County, right? Over 10,000 names. Over. So just for you to get in perspective, this 10,000 names, I put down the census information for 2021 for Northampton County. And the census of all the people of all colors says there's 12,000 names. 12,000 people. And 60% are Caucasian or white, and 30% are calling themselves African American or black. Now, I happen to know for a fact that about 80 to 90% of them are not black, but they're American Indian, right? They're calling themselves black when on that peninsula, those black people are not. And they only got 0.4% or something like that. 4%, 4.4, calling themselves American Indian. Right? They got more Asian than American Indian. When reality, all those blacks need to be American Indian listed because that's what they are. If you got 12, if you come from that Eastern Shore and all your grandparents come from there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and back in the 17 and 1800s, there were over 10,000 free Negroes, you Indian. Period. You are Indian. Period. There were no 10,000 Africans running free in Northampton in the 17 and 1800s. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So let's go to some other lines. Let me go ahead and get myself in the picture a little bit. Am I in here? Let me get to the broadcast. Let me get back.
But Lisa, while you're doing this, let me just say something to Philly Bull out there. Of course, America stretches from Alaska, Canada, North America, Mexico, Central America, the Caribbean, and South America. The Caribbean is part of the Americas, no doubt, of course. But this is where, and this is how we always get confused. So when Jamaicans come here and tell us who we are, and a lot of them come here on that African bullshit, I can't go to Jamaica and tell those people nothing. Why? Because I don't live there. I don't know the history there. See, we don't get the same respect here. You can come from anywhere and tell the Negroes here anything, and most of them will believe it. But I can't go to Jamaica and tell those people nothing about their land. So nobody's not saying Jamaica's not part of America. You damn right they part of Jamaica. Vital part. Haiti, all the Caribbean islands are. But it would be, imagine me going down to Jamaica telling those people about themselves. They'd kick my ass out of there. And they should, because I don't know nothing about Jamaica because they live there. They come and tell us anything, normally some crazy shit, and we are just supposed to take it and not say nothing. No, homie, it don't work like that. Of course, Jamaica's part of the Americas. The Americas is this whole hemisphere of the world. This is the West. They over there in the East, and they confuse us with these words. And instead of us thinking about it and figuring it out, we just rather be confused.
Okay, so I mean, the thing about the whole Jamaica thing is this: their experience is not our experience. Our experience is not their experience. So I think they don't, unless you were here in the 1800s, why are you in the conversation? I'm talking about my people in the 1600s. I have a legal fight for that. You know, you got other things to claim. So we only, you got your own place. Like, you walk around and you got your Jamaican place. I have Jamaican friends. I've had people from the islands, but you got your own place. You got your own people to get mad at. You got your own people to deal with. You got your own family land that was stolen. So this ain't the same talk. Whether you can call this America as a whole, Turtle Island, that's fine. But the reality is, what we got to contest and deal with is different. And you got to go deal with yours. And you don't need to be meddling in what's going on here, because you don't know my history, okay? And I don't know yours. So that's where the problem is. You got your own stuff to worry about. You weren't here during all the stuff that we had to do. You weren't here for the 1924, Integrity Act. You haven't been here for a lot of things that my people have suffered through. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but let's not. No, not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, it's different. I don't know what you guys went through over there. I don't know what you're still going through. So I'm not going to speak on that. Speak on what you know. Let's deal with the history that you have experienced. Let's deal with your lineage and your bloodline, what it connects you to. Not sitting up there, going tit for tat. That's a waste of my energy. I don't have time for that. You're not the same as me as far as what my family has gone through and what we did here and us being and living here. Are we the same people as far as, yes, are we the same as far as bloodline and connected and being of the same type of people on the planet? Yeah, but that's fine. But other than that, that's the end of that. That's it. Okay. Anyway, the slave trade, the so-called slave trade, where people were supposedly put in a sardine state and transported for indentured servitude. And now they're saying that they sent all the way to Africa for Africans to come over here and be temporary workers, which is obscene and absurd. Like, who pays that much for a temp? Like, I mean, have you ever owned a business or ran anything? You would never pay that much for a temporary worker. That doesn't even make any sense. This is ridiculous. There are many sites which say that the slave trade had 12 million enslaved Africans. Do you know that actually breaks down for 530 years, about 22,000 per year? And if you broke it into like 13 colonies, it'd be like 1,741 per colony, which is really not really significant anyway. But that's especially when you got 10,000 free Negroes. Think about that. Still doesn't make any sense. See, nothing makes sense because they're lying about everything. Britannica is lying. Smithsonian is lying. When the numbers don't add up, come on. When the physiology doesn't add up, you can't lay on boards. They didn't have no specialty cots that with rotation and filtration and waveforms and daggone sand and blowers to prevent you breaking down in bed sores on those boats, did they?
They was
Did
pissing. They
What
was
did they
pissing
have?
and shitting on each other.
Vomiting, bleeding, pissing, and shitting, because menstruation did not stop.
And
Well,
if
it
you,
might have stopped after they wasn't eating, but yeah, I mean, you know.
so check this out. So this is the story I heard when I first heard the African story from the so-called, what's the cat who stole Black Panthers from Alabama? Stokely Carmichael.
Right.
If anybody can find this tape, because I've looked everywhere for it, can't find it. Stokely Carmichael said they took 300 million Africans and brought them over here. 300 million? That's about the population of America today. And so I asked him, if they took 300 million, wouldn't that decimate their population? If they took all the young and the strong and the virile people from Africa, how come they're one of the most populous regions on the planet now? How are they able to procreate? Then we start seeing the numbers get low. 12 million is one of the lowest numbers I've seen. It used to be up 300 million. So that's what I'm saying. These people in these colleges is teaching you to be dumb, because I'm not saying all of them are doing that, but a lot of them are. 300 million slaves? And I was talking to Chief Warhorse one night, and she made it clear. If they bought 300 million slaves over here on wood and on wind-driven ships, it would still be a line across the Atlantic today. See, this is the kind of nonsense this is the kind of stuff we give our children.
Right.
To navigate themselves in the world.
Well, even more than Walter Plecker being an identity theft, you have Helen Roundtree, who wrote all these books about Virginia Indians, because she stole land from people and identity from people with her lies in her book. We have identity thieves that are alive and well today, like Helen Roundtree, like a lot of these African studies professors, like a lot of these people that are, our political leaders on television, so-called, and these people that are movie stars and lying and carrying on. There's a lot of people stealing our identity right now, truth be told. And so okay, let's say this. So they said the 12 million, now they try to say that the majority of them went to like Brazil, South America. But wait a minute. If all these daggone Africans went to South America, why don't they look African now? Why don't they look overwhelmingly African now? Because that's how they should look. If all them daggone slaves went to South America, they shouldn't be a bunch of people in Brazil, looking like these Brazilians that are going to court, going at the funeral. They should not look like that. because it should have been overrun by Africans during that time. And their genealogy should be still permeating South America. Do you understand? Make it make sense. Let's be logical about how we're looking at history. Don't let them just feed you anything and believe it. Look at these Brazilians. They don't look like they got overrun by 12 million. A majority of 12 million Africans came to South America. Do you see that picture that's next to the daggone yellow sign? Those people are white men be married to Brazilian women. White men overran that country. If it was slaves they got, it must have been white ones. Then they brought it down to 300,000 slaves. See, now they're saying like 350,000, 300,000. They changed the numbers, right? They go breaking it down. 300,000 disembarked in the U.S., which, okay, so now you're breaking it down to 300,000. See, they changed the numbers, okay? You know what I'm saying? You know a lie, but how many, you see how many times it's changing? Because they're lying. They're lying to us. 300,000 slaves for 530 years. Okay, that's 566. Sorry, not per year. 13 colonies. That's 43 slaves per. You 43 Africans per colony. 13 really? That's what we got as far as Africans. And you think you got African blood? Even if it's 300,000, that's only 43 Africans per colony. Even if it was true, that ain't nothing. Okay, so now you got these people called Think Africa, which they trying to, do that African diaspora thing. And they're talking about slavery all over. Oh, many people believe it started in 1619, but the Africans were in America. So they believe Africans are everywhere. Always been everywhere. That whole group. Pan-African to the max, right? So they talk about this article goes into Sudan and the Arab slave trade and all this other bull crap that you're not supposed to care about, but it's supposed to keep your mind distracted from the fact that, oh yeah, Africans were everywhere, Africans are everywhere. And what are they really talking about? Well, what they're really talking about on African Think is this. They're talking about, they started talking about African indentured servants. And you know why? Because of Northampton County. Because Northampton County had all those, like I said, free blacks, free Negroes, okay? Northampton County had all these free Negroes, and they got daggone Anthony Johnson, and they can't get him out of their mouths because he had all this land and he was a Negro. And they want to make him be from Africa or be from Europe. They're trying to make him be everything except the Indian that he is, the Accomack Indian, to be exact. To be exact. Okay, so now they're talking about they were whites were indentured servants, and that, oh yes, that okay, there were 10 million whites who were chattel slaves. That's what they're saying here. Oh, there were. I'm not arguing with that. But why you think everybody was from Africa was over here all this time when you know your grandmama didn't know and daggone Roots, the daggone Bell didn't know no Africans? If the Africans been here, that would be part of your oral history. You would know where you come from because they would always be a reminder they're here. And you know what? They would be continuously coming here. If they were taking speedboats over here, that wouldn't have just stopped. Why would it stop? If you know how to make boats that can get over to America, why would you stop coming? They would be getting in the boats today. Truth be told, now they got to go do way in Mexico and all kinds of stuff to try to sneak in the country.
Hey, let me ask a question. Were they coming over here during hurricane season? Were they taking their speedboats during hurricane season? How did that work?
Yeah, there's speedboats. This is my thing. I'm saying it's like, where are these speedboat Africans now? Because, like, seriously, if that's the way you roll, like, if you could get over to America and you know how to build speedboats, they would still be coming. Like, nothing would have been stopping them. Like, for hundreds of years, I ain't seen no Africans over here. There's no records to prove this. They make this stuff up, which is why the numbers keep on changing. The numbers keep on changing, y'all. Over 10 million whites were chattel slaves. But they know what that means? Goodbye, reparations, because we've always known it. The people who know the truth know it. That's why white people in the South be like, I'm white. They ain't got no history because there's history slavery. They have no records. They have no land records. They have no records of their first and last names halfway because they're white. They don't have records. Different. Now, the most recent news. Skip Gates, the famous person that all good Negroes love. All those African Americans love Skip Gates, Henry Louis Gates. He now says officially that there are only 92,000 slaves came to America from Africa. 92, down to 92,000. Do you understand that for 530 years, divide that by 530 years, you get 173 slaves per year. That would be only 13 Africans per colony. Yeah, y'all, that's really a big part of your genealogy. If this is y'all make things make sense. See, that's the kind of thing. Lies that don't make sense. And the fact that we don't even study anything, we don't examine anything, we don't question anything, and we don't even use basic math. That's a problem. When you don't apply basic math to the lies that they tell you, that's a problem. That's why so many people are fighting as Pan-Africans. Why are they really fighting? Because there's a whole lot of money to be made as a Pan-African. That's why. There's money to be made. Let's go back to the program and let's see what's happening with Skip Gates. What does he have to say? Ooh. Okay. This is an excerpt from I guess the Stan Orr's clip from Carrie Elmo's original posting about Henry Louis Gates.
In this article, it says here, genetics, the science and business of genetic ancestry testing. All right, Deborah A. Bolnick, these scientists, professors, all right, they contributed to this. Consumers often purchase these tests to learn about their race or ethnicity, but there is no clear-cut connection between an individual's DNA and his or her racial or ethnic affiliation. Again, there is no clear-cut connection between an individual's DNA and his or her racial or ethnic affiliation. Many genetic ancestry tests also claim to tell consumers where their ancestral lineage originated. All right, again, they claim, all right, and the social group to which their ancestors belong. However, present-day patterns of residence are rarely identical to what existed in the past, and social groups have changed over time in name and composition. Databases of present-day samples may therefore provide false leads. Thus, these tests should not be seen as determining the race or ethnicity of a test taker. They cannot pinpoint the place of origin or social affiliation of even one ancestor with exact certainty. They cannot pinpoint the place of origin or social affiliation of even one ancestor with exact certainty.
In the year 2000, a young black geneticist named Dr. Rick Kittles, who at the time was teaching at Howard University, sent me a letter. He's now at the University of Chicago Medical School. And he said that he was asking various African-American men if they would submit themselves to this new test. And through this test, he could trace on your mother's line where in Africa you were from. Man, that was some serious stuff. And I said, yeah, I called him right away. And I said, definitely. How badly do I want to know where I'm from in Africa? But I really wanted to know. I'd wanted to know since I was 9 years old. So, let's go for it. I said, Rick, what's up, man? Where am I from in Africa? Where are my people? I want to jump on a plane and go. I thought I'd buy some land, get a fine little African sister, to hook up. I was single at the time, don't get me wrong. I'm still single. Well, so he said, well, we had to run, your results were anomalous. And we had to run them many times. But we finally have figured out where you're from. You are descended on your mother's side from the Nubian people. Now, all African Americans, not all African Americans, but many African Americans want to be descended from one or two ethnic groups. Either the Zulu, because the Chaka Zulu, and the Zulu kicked the English in the behind in the Boer Wars, right? Until they finally were overcome. But you want to be Zulu, or you want to be Nubian. Who were the Nubians? The Nubians were the black pharaohs. And so a Nubian, and all these people wanted to be Nubians, descended from the black pharaohs. So I called Malefi first thing. I said, Malefi, I just got my results back. I am a Nubian. Where are you from? I am the true African prince. My friend Anthony Appiah, whose uncle was the Asantehene, the king of the Asante people. When Rick Kittle sent me a certificate announcing I was Nubian, Anthony Appiah looked at it and said, what a ton of rubbish. Now, why would he say that? Well, there's a slight problem with being either Zulu or Nubian if you're African American. You know what the problem is? None of our ancestors who came here in slavery came from South Africa, the Zulu people, or from Nubia. None, zero. There's a slight problem with being either Zulu or Nubian if you're African American. You know what the problem is? None of our ancestors who came here in slavery came from South Africa, the Zulu people, or from Nubia. None, zero. When Oprah was finally in the first series, and we gave her a DNA test, basically the next day she went to South Africa to announce that she was opening what became the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy. She was in an auditorium like 75,000 people or something, and she announced that she just had the test and that she was Zulu. So it broke on CNN. I was sitting in my living room minding my own business and said, Oprah Winfrey's a Zulu. So I called Rick Kittles and I said, Rick, did you tell Oprah she was a Zulu? He goes, no, man, she made that up herself. It's a true story. It's a true story. I would lie to make you laugh, but I'm telling you a true story. So I said, Rick, are you in your lab? He said, yeah. I said, is anybody there? He said, no. I said, when the results come in, make her Zulu, man. I said, you back there making it up anyway. I said, you back there making it up anyway. Nobody believe you could take some spit and figure out a tribe? What are you, crazy? Nobody believe you could take some spit and figure out a tribe? What are you, crazy?
Yeah, we got Skip Gates coming on, and he's got everybody, all the stars saying that they are not Indian. He got Don Cheadle talking about, oh, he's just a slave. He couldn't have been Indian. That's not true. You're not any parts Native American. Yeah, he's not any parts Native American. He's all American Indian. Okay. Yeah, he's not. You're not going to match with a Siberian. You're not. But they're not part of this continent. They're not part of America. So, I mean, you can't test me against a Native American. That ain't gonna work. But that's the kind of stuff we got going on. That's the kind of lies that people are pushing, and that's what they're trying to put out there in the public, and that's what even the Native Americans are buying into and trying to treat you like you're some kind of wannabe.
Did you ever see the one with that brother? I don't know. He's an actor, and they told him he was from somewhere in Africa, and this dude just lost it. He was screaming, jumping up and down, doing black back. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah, it's they just, yeah. These actors are actors, and they have to. And even I was watching a stand up by what's his name, Dave Chappelle, and he said the first ones that they're gonna push the limit to are the performers, are the entertainers. They're the first ones who they're going to manipulate, put hands on, oppress, tell them what they must do, are the entertainers. And until we understand that, we're not going to understand anything. Of course, those people are going to dance a jig, whatever they say. If you got to go get a shot, they're going to be the first one pounding into their arm. If you're going to be called African, they're going to be the first one trying to go to Africa and claim their African heritage. Because they're just showboats. That's all they are. They're showboats. And they're there not to perform for us, they're to perform to influence us. They are supposed to influence us according to what the elite want them to do, whatever the agenda is. And keeping this land out of our hands is the agenda. Keeping this land out of our hands is the agenda. The fact that we're still here is a major disappointment. They said African Americans were dying the most from COVID. Why y'all still here? I mean, you weren't supposed to be. You weren't supposed to be. Crack was supposed to get you. Heroin was supposed to get you. Vietnam was supposed to get you. All these different things are being done to eliminate the American Indian, and y'all are still here. But you are steadfast in believing that you're from someplace else. So this is the thing. If everybody comes from Africa, why ain't they DNA? Why ain't they from Africa? Why is not everybody from Africa? We all know that those kits are made up. He said that we just saw the video. I mean, Henry Gates just admitted it. He just admitted it. I don't know what more anybody needs. He admitted it multiple times. So now they're writing that, well, Europeans are not from Africa, that they're from Asia, and that the Chinese were white and all kinds of stuff. But Chinese, we know, were dark, and so most of the world was dark. It's a dark. The Caucasian only came about for like 7,000 years ago. They're very new people. They're not us. They don't really know where they came from. That's the fact. So then they talk about, there's another article that talks about the human origins theory being debunked out of Africa theory. Okay. But guess what they're using? They're using this jaw that they found, but the jaw that they found is of an ape. It's a pre-human El Greco jaw, and teeth were found, and they're ape remains. I don't know about you, but I ain't from no ape, and I ain't had no tails, and I know I've seen a white stripper with a tail, so I know that they still got tails. So, I mean, that ape evolution thing, I have not seen any bees evolve. I've not seen cockroaches evolve. I haven't seen, there's no evidence of any modern evidence of evolution. So I don't understand how where this whole theory persists to this day. But they still, a lot of the times when they say that man came out of Africa or man came out of Europe or the Mediterranean or wherever they're saying, they are looking at ape remains, not human. Understand that. These are what they call pre-humans. So when these Pan-Africans say, oh no, it came out of daggone Ethiopia, that's an ape, y'all. That's an ape. They gotta just make sure that they are distinguishing early remains from whether they're human or ape. That's the thing. Because they conflate the two. They conflate the two when they are communicating to you. The African / European are the oldest pre-humans. Pre-humans. They're not human. What the heck is a pre-human? I don't know about you, but I don't consider myself a pre-nothing. I've watched a whole bunch of documentaries about apes. I don't consider myself them at all. So, no, I'm not a primate. But the U.S. has the most, 6 of the oldest human remains are found in the U.S. 6 of the oldest are found in the U.S. And Lusa, they tried, okay, let me tell you, if you watch the YouTube for Lucia, when they found out that she looked Negro, they kept running, they kept looking over and over. They could not believe that this person was Negroid. They expected her to be native or Asiatic, Eurasian in features. When she came out looking in South America, and then they tried to sidestep that. Why? How do they try to sidestep it? If you look at the article, it says, oh, she's Australian. See, they try to make it not us. They don't want us to be here at all. Not the South Americans, not the North Americans, not anybody on this planet. Nobody on this planet wants the Negro to be from the Americas at all. Like I said, to the point they're going to make Lucia, they're going to say she looks Australian. Really? Australians don't leave. They don't be traveling. Okay, so don't act like Australians were coming over here because they don't like leaving home. Even the actors, they'll come to Hollywood and go right the heck back to their little village or wherever they live in Australia. They ain't trying to leave Australia. Okay, so that's not true. And that's the same thing for real Americans. Us Indians, we don't leave. We don't want to go be living anywhere else. And these people that want to go live in Africa, they're touched in the head or they're not us. They're probably Europeans. They're probably Black Europeans. But you can see that she's clearly Negroid in appearance, okay? But that's how they change it. And also understand this. They cover up findings in the Americas. You're only gonna, science is inexact. If you find a bone, that's the oldest bone. That don't mean it's the oldest bone. That's just all that you found. So it's all relative, y'all. But people want to act like this science is all exact. There ain't nothing exact about science, okay? If you know science, that you should know. But I'll put it like this. Where the Accomacs are from in Virginia, that's something else that they don't talk about, is this article here. A fisherman pulls up a beastly evidence of early Americans. They found a 22-year-old, and you can add 8 years on at least to that, probably 10, because they're gonna shave off thousands, tens of thousands of years. So you have to understand that if they're gonna say it's a 22,000-year-old mastodon, it's probably a 30,000 or 40,000-year-old mastodon head. They found a mastodon head right near where my daddy's people are from in Cheapside, Virginia, and a bunch of Clovis points around the head. Those Clovis arrow tips show that they're Virginia Indians near Cheapside have been there over 25,000 years. Over. They're trying to deny These people are still classifying themselves as African and black, African American and black. And these people have been living on that peninsula right there on the Eastern Shore for forever. And they're misclassified on purpose, and they still doing it to themselves because we've been brainwashed and we've been miseducated. And you're gonna let somebody from anywhere, you can't come nowhere and tell me nothing. Learn about your own people. They're hiding your history. How did I find out about these Clovis points? It wasn't because I was reading it in the news, or it wasn't on my, what didn't come over my daggone, just over across my, regular search engine. It's because I was happened to be looking for artifacts for the Yakamac. I was looking for, just arrow tips and stuff. And I happened upon this thing where it was a site where they kind of they tried to sell their arrowheads to each other. They were kind of auction site. So it wasn't eBay. It was just like a special one for like people who collect, these Clovis points and stuff. And on it, somebody mentioned this. And that's when they mentioned these Clovis points. They were trying to sell it for a good penny, but it wasn't nobody buying. You know why? Because they hid the science. They hid the discovery. You can't make $20,000 per arrow point when nobody knows about the discovery. When the scientists hide the fact that they found a mastodon and they found these points there, because they don't want the people that are living right there now to know that they found this, even though the people are still in complete ignorance. They don't recognize that they're Indians. They still think they're sitting up there calling schools African American schools, thinking they African American, when they know that just a few years ago that term was not even used in America. African America just started in the late 1980s, and it's been pushed hard in the 90s and the 2000s. Pushed hardest in the last 20 years. We are being tricked by Jesse Jackson, by Roots. Alex Haley plagiarized. He got paid $650. He had to pay $650,000 to Harold Corlander, the real writer, who was a Caucasian that wrote the book that was called Africa that Alex Haley copied for Roots. He also copied a book called I'm forgetting now. Shoot. But anyway, it's another book written by a Negro writer that he also plagiarized. It wasn't just his. But anyway, then you have this whole stupid thing, the Clotilda, right? To make you think that they're African ships. That Clotilda thing was done right around the time that Alabama, or not just Alabama, the South had actually was what is it called? When they receded, or they from the Union. What is that called? Anyway, they were actually separating themselves from the Union at that time. So you have to understand that a lot of the people that own land in Alabama and Georgia, all throughout the eastern seaboard, were Indians. Most of the people that owned the land were Negro Indians. Even though you don't know, you may not believe this, but just look at the evidence is clear. It's all over the place if you look. See, we've just been told that these people are not you. We've been told that these people are not you, but these people, this is you. This is you. The people that own the plantations are you. So you have to understand that the Civil War was about getting the land from the Negro. The money was written. It had our images on it. We were making the money. We were in government. We were running things. We had positions of power. The Civil War was to destroy all that. Yeah, the secession. That's what it is. The Alabama Secession Convention was happening around the time it was happening. The secession was happening. And so they were trying to make this whole slavery thing real, getting all this northern energy about we got to fight. We got to fight. And it was fighting because they wanted to take what they couldn't control, what they couldn't get their hands on. And the white population grew from 5,000 something in 1800 to 350,000 in 1860. Y'all, let me say this one more time. This is how much the immigration and the control of this country only really took part after like 1800. It only happened after 1800, y'all. The white population grew from 5,179. And I'm not using rounded numbers like they do for the slave trade, which you know is fake, all those zeros. In 1800 to 3,500, 353,901 in 1860. In addition, the slave population grew. Why? Because they enslaved us. And it was recent. It just happened after 1860. Our slavery period was very close to emancipation, so-called. It was like a jail sentence instead of slavery. Are you getting this? Let's this marinate. The slave population expanded from 3,489. Notice it's not a 00 number. To 436,631. There was a change of power that occurred in this country, and it didn't occur until after 1800. And that's why I said read books before 1800. The change of power happened after the revolution, after 1800. Prisoners of war, all the way around. So then now they're using DNA tests to try to make you think you're African. They got the whole African museum making you think you're African. All this stuff designed to make you, and then they brought Roots out again and Coming to America again. And Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman is propaganda so that you would believe that you had to be rescued when you didn't need to be rescued. She was in a free state just about. Maryland had, her daddy was free. Half of her family were already free. Lies you telling, girl. But I don't think that she didn't exist. I believe she's like Black Lives Matter. She was propaganda for the whole slave trade problem. Like, oh, there's a whole problem with slavery. And see, Harriet's going to tell you about it. She was propaganda. They've been using propaganda. Let me tell you something. If you really read European history, you'll understand that most of the stuff they got cracking started from them lying. Propaganda is how they got stuff done. The Queen of England murdered her cousin, who wasn't even trying to come for her throne for real, because of propaganda. Because folks were afraid they might lose their post of position. And they were like, yeah. She's trying to get what you got, Elizabeth. You got to kill her. And, it's all lies. Everything they do is about lies and propaganda, and they still use the same methodology. Understand me when I'm saying it. And then there's the money. You know how many professors, they don't make a lot of money, but There's a lot of people that make money from writing books, and professors have to write books, and they make the money from the lectures. But they may make $100,000 being a professor of African American studies, and then plus they get their speaking engagements, and they have books that they get money from, and all kinds of different other jobs that they can do because they're not limited from doing things with other universities and other endowments as well. As far as also involves free travel benefits, going to Africa and talking to people, blah, blah, blah. People are making a lot of money off of being African, not just the $6.6 million they put into Roots. Now, I want to put this in context for you. What does $6.6 million mean in 1979? Well, it's it's a little bit more than what they paid for The Godfather. It's a little bit more than what they paid for The Godfather. Why all of a sudden was it so important for them to make a story about somebody's roots being from Africa in 1979, 1978, 77? Why? Because, like I showed y'all before, the Negro didn't know where we were from. We were a blank slate. We only know things for the 20 years of our lives, and then we don't know nothing. That's the problem with us. So we didn't know. We were like, what's a Negro? Oh no. What's an African American? Oh, we from Africa. I know for a fact. Now you got these pit bull Negroes who will tear you to limb from limb if you tell them they're not from Africa. Why? Because they got all this information, so-called, all this manufactured information to support the lie.
You know what's funny about that story? And the people who do that, the pit bull Negroes that you talk about, you ask them simple, and this is what I mean. We got to start thinking. You ask them, which of these Africans are coming over here saying that story that you know happened? Because I know the Africans I run into and the Africans that contact me, you know what the first thing they ask me? How do you guys believe this nonsense? I know Negroes from Mississippi talking about they got land in Mississippi and they sitting on oil. How does an African slave get oil, land filled with oil in Mississippi? Explain that.
Right.
This is the shit we teach our kids.
Right. And that disconnects them from their inheritance. Because as long as you sit up there teaching your children, oh yeah, we're from Africa, they'll never ever grow up and be like, wait a minute, let me see. All my grandparents are from the Eastern Shore. They're all freaking Accomack Indians. We are nothing but Indian, with the exception of one, maybe a rare exception here or there. Some family have. We have a very rich bloodline. What? That kind of stuff. Oh, what? We Yamakras, we Letahachis, we, real names of real people. Not calling yourself Cherokee, not calling yourself just Creek or Choctaw. Real names of your real people from the real counties where your real people are from. That's what needs to happen. Because your real names are not using all these fake names like you got to change your name. Using your God-given name that connects you to your people. That part. Yeah, Roots is one of the biggest success stories in TV. Who knew that this deception was also going to be wildly profitable? Trust me, when they put this out there, they didn't know it was going to make money like it did, that it was going to take over the airways on the level that it had. All they knew is they had to get a story in the minds of these Negroes, these Black people. These black is not good enough to disconnect them from their heritage in America. We got to put them somewhere. We got, that's why they started in the 1800s with these ships going to Liberia, because they got to put us somewhere. It's not enough that we don't know who we are, that they didn't allow us to call ourselves the Indians that we were. They got to put you somewhere, mentally and even better, physically. So this person wrote this article about a freed slave and some story of Mohambo Gado, a former slave taken from the Niger Delta. Let me tell you something. If you got a long story about one damn slave in Brazil that made it back to daggone Africa, you know that whole slave story is a lie. Because why would one person make it back and have a story about it out of all the so-called slaves you got there? Why would that be remembered, recalled, and revered? And they use this picture, which is not a picture of an African scene at all. And they talked about that that they had fruits and that's all. There's Americans in that picture. There's not Africans. Nothing about that picture is about Africans. Because they're dark skinned, they're Africans. Oh, you have an equator that wraps around the planet, but yet everybody that's dark skinned is African. Get out of here. So this whole Brazil 5-10 centuries of change, that's the kind. It's a beautiful website. And guess who did it? Brown University. Brown University got daggone Negroes on their campus. They part of the university is a Negro Indian land. But they writing stories about some Brazilian slave from Africa. Come on, Brown. Stop with this propaganda. This is not a picture of a daggone African. $540 million for that museum. $540 million for a building that I will never enter. No way. And no one should. It's a waste and it's a lie. No one should go to that museum. No one. Just because it's called African American, that alone, no one should go there ever.
Miss LA says religion plays a big part. They believe in Hebrews being enslaved, scattered, and lost. Miss LA, you're absolutely right. Religion plays a big part. How we're still in it, I don't know. Because if you read the first page of the Bible, you should have at least 100 questions, which means Negroes don't read. And then that Hebrew Israelite story, for real, cuz?
Right.
For real? And those Hebrew Israelites, they're an offshoot of the church anyway. So that religion thing got us twisted. Jesus ain't come to save you from the COVID. Jesus didn't stop that bomb being dropped on those brothers and sisters in Philadelphia. Jesus never there to save you. And remember this, sister told me this: when the Indian awakes, the earth will quake.
Right. Yeah, we need to show and prove what we do know and what we're not going to support. And that we're not going to support African American, not in word or deed, or black. We're not going to support it. We're not black. We're not a dead word. We're not African American. We're not giving foreign African status in our country. We're not doing that. Okay? That's not what we're here for, to have somebody else climb on our backs and stomp us to the ground. We're not for that. Obama signed a bill. He signed a bill eliminating Negro, Oriental from federal laws. Now, they tried to say that was done because of the word Oriental, but the word Oriental isn't all over the laws like that. But the word Negro is all over our laws. It's all over our history. It's all over our court records, and it's all over our. It's a lot. It's in a lot of our documents. So Negro, just like the people said in that video, is a term that is pretty much indigenous to our experience in America. It's not a term used in Africa, and he cut us off from it. He cut us off from that term on purpose. "23andMe makes over $150 million a year with these DNA kits. That's probably you can triple that probably. Then in addition to that, they have a deal where they get $300 million from the pharmaceutical giant GSK to develop drugs. 23andMe makes a whole lot of money. I couldn't get a breakdown of the race, but they make a whole lot of money off those DNA kits. Now, I'm going to say one thing. I mean, like if you're adopted or whatever, that's a good way for you to find cousins and kin and aunties and uncles. A lot of people don't know who their dads are or whatever. So it's a good mechanism for that. But it's not a good mechanism for you to find a continent, because DNA matches you to people, not continents. You're not going to find out what continent you're from a DNA kit. That's absurd. It's a person-to-person match. So at best, you'll find cousins and kin. But they're selling your DNA results to these different pharmaceutical developers, developing drugs. And they're developing more than that. Because this is an article that says how Russia could use your aunt's genealogy hobby to kill you. How Russia could use your aunt's genealogy hobby to kill you. And the article goes like this: your aunt's genealogy hobby could help China or Russia design a biological weapon to kill your family. The risk alarms policymakers and officials in the United States, even if it's a remote prospect for most people. The emergence of such technology could allow rogue regimes to execute assassination programs with more than usual impunity. Yeah, this is when it gets into the article form, it's already done. This is already done. If they're saying they got it, they could use your aunt's genealogy to kill you, they already can. They're already doing it.
So what do you think? What are those plasma centers around where their people are giving their plasma? What
all in our communities.
So do you think that is connected with this?
It is. They're all for drug development, and they're also checking they're checking your blood type, DNA type, whatever, to develop bioweapons. That's why they were really sure that COVID was going to kill you. They said it with a certainty before we even got sick, before it even reached us. They were saying it's going to be it's going to be more deadly for the African Americans. Why would they know such a thing? Well, when you develop a bioweapon, you know who it's directed to kill. I mean, that they have the technology to do it doesn't mean they really fully understand what they're doing. Also, it doesn't mean that they're very smart, because they're not. They intentionally have dummied down the world so that they could let this whole pandemic work. And then dummying down the world, they unfortunately have created a lot of real actual dummies. So the scientists and the doctors and nurses are dumber than they've ever been. So like I said, although they should be able to make bioweapons to kill your family, it doesn't mean they're smart enough to actually get it done correctly. Just like a lot of their plans have not worked like they should have. Okay, so now we're going to go to, what about some of these Indians that are on the East Coast? Virginia, New Jersey, New York, New England, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky. I don't know if they have any, but South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida. What are they? What are they? Who are they? So I have separated it. Government chosen, recognized Indians, natives of the Northeast, Southeast, South, Mid, which would be the Midwest, mid area like Missouri, Southwest and Western Seaboard, versus the first contact, declassified by law. Understand, we are first contact people who were declassified by law. That's what we are. Negroid, you could use that, or Afro-American Indians of the Northeast, Southeast, South, Mid, Southwest, and Western Seaboard. The difference is all the things that were done to destroy the Indian. And I'm not even listing all the diseases, the war, the separation, all that. We're just going to deal with like law stuff and things like that, pretty much. Beginning in 1660, as I discussed earlier during this whole thing, there were slave codes that affected the brown Afro-Indians. They were separated from the right to call themselves Indian. Remember, I told you that was the first blow. The slave code said that you couldn't own Christians, and you did all these little rules. It was the first. We're gonna try to control these Indians, right? And understand that these were a lot of this was done by the Black Europeans, because the first Europeans that came over here were mostly Black Europeans. And you can tell because we were still running the country. How can you tell? Well, I can tell by looking at the court records in Northampton, which are the oldest continuous court records in the nation, and how many Indians were in the courtroom. How are you going to have a bunch of Indians in the courtroom in the early 1600s if we weren't running things? Why would there be courtrooms gathered to talk about who was supposed to be the rightful chief of the Indians? That kind of stuff. If we weren't running the courts. Anyway, we could talk about that on another time. But the act, next thing was the Act of 1756 completely destroyed the colored or brown, Negroid, Afro-American Indians' right to call themselves American Indian ever. It took it all away. Why? Because it states that an Indian who is Negro yet has 3 Indian grandparents may not never call themselves Indian. It's that one drop rule for the first time. But you got a little bit of color in you, you ain't Indian. Period. 1756 Act. But what this thing did, the slave codes end on the other side, on the yellow side of the board, what it did, it allowed those who didn't have, who appeared white, who appeared Caucasian, who did not have 3 grandparents who were Negro, who were Indians, to call themselves Indian. They could have been fully Scottish, Jacobites, because understand, they wanted to unite the British Empire. So they needed to get rid of those rebellious Scots, who were the Negroes, who were the colored ones, who were the dark ones. The Jacobites had to go. You can't take over a land and unite it and then keep the rebels around. You got to get rid of them. Send them to America. All them Jacobites came here. They allowed the Scottish and Irish immigrants to be recognized as Native American. Does that sound familiar? I showed you the act where they allowed the law where they allowed Chinese to be Native American Indians. The first time they did it, it was the Scottish and the Irish. So that's why when you say, "Oh, I'm on the rolls," baby, that don't mean nothing to me, because most of the people on the rolls was Jacobites. They were Scottish. Just like John Ross, who was the chief of the Cherokees, was completely Scottish. Claimed to be, didn't speak Algonquin or anything, but he was made by the government. They removed the Afro-Indian and put in John Ross, the Scot, the Caucasian Scottish guy. These Indians are government created. They're not by blood, they're by government. They're by roles and by rules, not by bloodline. So that's why you see some of these people, yeah, they have some Negroid, light-skinned people, and some of them married dark and, look darker than maybe even their predecessor. But they still, at the time of organization, had mostly lighter people that was able to claim identity, or the people were like in some kind of secret society where they were able to recognize, because they were willing to be under the government and the control of these other white secret societies. A lot of these people were Masonic. That's the other way that some of these tribes got to be tribes and you didn't. The Masonic control gave them the ability to claim their identity as Indian despite their having melanin. Melanated Indians were made to be colored or Negro or mulatto. And if you were able to sidestep it, it was because you were willing, you were either had the complexion for the connection, or you were in some kind of secret Masonic society. The Europeans, man, I got records of Europeans that claim to be 164th Indians, and they were enrolling. They were straight European, and they were able to pay a $5 tax and be on the rolls. The other thing that was done after changing the identity from the Indians from the Indians to the Negro and colored, was they took their land, because we had land. Like I said, we were in court. The Accomacs were in court in the 1600s. People, other tribes, we ain't the only ones that went to court. But by disconnecting you from all those people and that legislation that was done that you have in your favor, you now have you lost the right to claim your land. You lost your property. You lost your oil rights. You lost your mineral rights. You lost your precious metals and precious stones because you could no longer claim the land or your identity. The next thing that happened in 1831 was the last Indian War, which that's what I call the Nat Turner Uprising. It was obviously the last Indian War. That's why the Europeans make a point of you knowing it, because they want to keep that in their mind. And they got together, they uprised, because they're a slave uprising. No, it was an Indian War, and it showed that the free Indians, all those free folks, that tens of thousands of free Indians, helped some of those ones that got caught up in that you gonna be a forever slave stuff, because some of those acts, those slave codes, made people forever slaves. They said if you were not born of Christian parenthood, then you were a forever slave. Some of the people thought they were just doing an indentureship, and they said, "Oh no, your mom is not a Christian. Sorry." What? I only agreed to work until I was 31. Nat Turner was 31. And then next thing they're gonna tell you that you're gonna be a forever slave. Oh no. You got cousins right down the street through the woods that have guns. We're not finna let this go. And that's what happened. It was the last major Indian War. And after that, that's why there's a Trail of Tears. See, they always talk about the Trail of Tears, but they ain't got no reason for it. They never have a reason for it. But if you understand that the Nat Turner Uprising was in 1831 and the Trail of Tears plan was launched in the 1840s, it all makes sense. They had to separate you from your foe because they knew y'all would get together and do it again. So they sent folks packing. The darker ones took the daggone, had to be called slaves, even if they weren't. Freedmen later on. Because they had to explain why these Indians were so dark. They always want to make up an excuse and it never makes sense. Why are they called freedmen? I don't know. Why were these slaves going with the daggone that? How are they going with Indians that was their family? And no, because people had plantations and their families worked on the plantations, period. And they're making you assume that the Indians that were allowed to be Indians weren't your relatives when they were. And then you got these racist people on the other side of the being government Indians claiming, oh no, freedmen can't claim that they're Indians. Bullshit. You the one that's not Indian. There's records of people having their family, their wives, given the position of housekeeper. We don't understand slavery. We don't understand the records and what they really mean. The war was followed by the Trail of Tears. The Indians were replaced by European Indians and those of mostly mixed with the European birth. And we were never called Indians again. And a lot of us scattered all over. Some of us went south, like my family's part of family went to Montana. Some family went to Florida. So now they got the Smithsonian talking about, well, they want you to think about, you know, you talking about slavery and reparations. The Smithsonian's trying to make people think of it in a different way, right? They want you to get your mind right around this whole slavery thing, you know, and get your thinking right, right? They want you to get your thinking right. How are you thinking about this slavery? Let's put it in perspective. Listen to the Smithsonian. They know what's up with slavery. They know what we really should be focused on. So they put out an article, and this was an older article. This is an article that was done in 2012, right? So, you know, we really should know about this at this point. I mean, we hear about it. We hear about slavery today. But what they said was, today there's more slaves in the world than there were during the 230 years of the transatlantic. 27 million. Double the slaves taken from Africa are enslaved to, that was in 2012. So I mean, what do we really have to be mad about when we consider that? But you know what that does tell you is that a lot of what we've been told has been grossly exaggerated. It also tells you that a lot of things can happen to you right under your nose and you're not even aware of it. Slavery, modern slavery, is occurring right now. Somebody wants to whip it up and make a big deal out of it, they could go to war about it. I don't know. I mean, just you have to understand everything's relative, right? And there's really nothing new under the sun. What you got to say about that, Carrie?
This is another thing about the whole slavery thing. What they tell you slavery is, it could be a myriad of things.
Right.
Here's an example how slavery goes. So when we kill each other off, we dog each other out, somebody's dead, somebody goes to jail or prison. That's two birds from one, that's killing two birds with one stone. Those people are connected to the land. That's how you get them off the land. I mean, these are simple tricks that they do. We never figure it out. We don't know. Huh? I never heard of that. This is stuff that, hey, and don't we traffic our own children today? You're getting them off the land. So, yeah, other people do stuff to us, but that really doesn't, Our thing is what we do to ourselves allow other people to do things to us. And then we pretend like I didn't know. And this is what we do to ourselves. So like I'm saying, find out who your folks are. Teach their children something more than them being black. Because you see, when people call you black, they say it with disdain in their voice. And then you don't know nobody the color of my shirt, but you are adamant of making sure that's what your children are.
Or African American, when you don't even know that to be true, but you'll fight anybody who tries to say you're not. And then you got people in a county that is has more evidence than anybody of what their background is and being being Accomack Indian, and they calling themselves black and African American. You putting it down on paper, and you're writing yourself away from your inheritance. Worse than that, you're writing your children and grandchildren away from their inheritance. And that is real crazy. It's crazy. You are consenting to the loss of everything that has been taken from you. And then you want to sit in here and rally behind people talking about reparations. For what? Reparations for nothing. They are just distracting you from the truth. Because clearly we all know that white people were enslaved in great numbers. We all know that there were more free Negroes than we could ever imagine. There were slave owners, myriads of them, multitudes who were Negroes. So let's deal with the truth and stop trying to wish upon a star with these people who mean you no good, and deal with the truth of your true ancestry and what you can actually claim. Well, there's a long history of these our Eastern Seaboard nations, tribal organizations expelling their Black members, right? Whole New Yorker article about it, and it was just recent, July 18th. That's just the past week, right? Race and belonging into America. They know we are understanding our truth. They understand that we are becoming more knowledgeable. They understand that a lot of the cat is already out the bag. So they are responding in like with these articles. You see who's in the picture? These Negro Indians, these Afro Indians being pushed out of the tribe. They're not Black members. They're the real Indians. The government Indians, government assigned Indians are pushing the bloodline Indians out, the Afro bloodline Indians out. But guess what? On next to it, there's a Rappahannock powwow, right? I'm gonna get to the real. I'm getting to everything. Ain't nobody safe today. There's a Rappahannock powwow. I don't really care for the powwow name, and I told you about them dances and then half of them costumes being inspired by Siberia. But let me look at what I'm looking at. I look at it and I'm like, dancers, admission. Any that provide federal or state tribal ID are free. Well, why? They got to be federal or state recognized? Really? So you only you only allow people that the government deem as Indians, government assigned Indians. Government assigned Indians, the fact that they are assigning Indians, first of all, we all know how that happened. It started in the 1660s with them saying that if you have 3 grandparents that are Indian, you still can't call yourself Indian. So how are we ever supposed to win when that is how it all began? Let's deal with that. Then let's deal with the fact that how the heck does any government get to tell you who the heck you are? Especially when you predate them. How is a corporation supposed to have the right to tell me for people that predate this corporation who I am? And how, as you as an indigenous people, so-called, how do you go along with that? Why are you complying with that whole ideology?
Get kickback.
Exactly. They said the dancers even have to be federally recognized, must be federally or invited state recognized tribe. You can't, you got the government. The government they want the government to regulate the Indian. They want it. Why do they want it? Because I would tell you, any real Indian should be like, no, you ain't regulating us. You ain't telling us what to do, where we at. Give us the BIA and we'll run that. We'll run the money. Give us all our federal funds you owe us, and the BIA, and we'll run the heck out of it. But you don't need to be telling nothing Indians to do nothing. That's what a real Indian would do. But if you're a government created, then you're going to keep supporting what the government creates and mandates, right?
So you see what she just said. What she just said is very important. So the BIA is yours. You know how come we never get stuff like that? Because we can never agree on stuff. Like Thomas Patterson said, pick me Indians. We're always arguing that what we not and all this, and we can't even wrap our head around what's ours to get our stuff back, because we always arguing over some stupid shit. And we got all these cats saying we ADOS, FBA, Black, Hebrew, Israelite, Moors. Do you see how we can't even get? And we're proud of it. Why all these Ukrainians, all these people come over and dog you like they're doing now.
Yes, indeed. Well, I want you to understand that, a lot of people are, I don't know, a lot of hesitant. Oh, I don't know. Well, do you know what's the genealogy? How are we going to claim we Indian? Blah, blah, blah. They don't know. Let me tell you something. The BIA and these so-called state and federal Indians, all of this is all built on a whole foundation of lies that continue, and lies that are continue to be supported by these people that are benefiting. There are people that today are organizing themselves as Indian. They only got one great-great-grandparent or grandparent who is Indian. They everything else, they African, they West Indian, they everything else but Indian, but yet they call themselves full chiefs all over this country. They completely Caucasian, they're completely daggone African, they're completely whatever. Anything, like I said, but being Indian, and yet they are granted recognition. They play the political game, they kiss enough political butt, and they get things cracking. Let me show you about this whole story with Chief Roy Crazy Horse. People love him. They speak about him like he is pure butter and loveliness. He's a Negro. He was a colored man, born a colored man in Virginia. But he may be colored and half Puerto Rican. There's question there whether he's half Puerto Rican. This guy he was not born in Virginia. I'm sorry, he was not born in Virginia. He was not born even born in Virginia. He was born in New Jersey. He's a Charles H. Johnson, and his mama was named Anna Schmidt Johnson. This man in 1970 something decided that he descended from Powhatan Indians, possibly Rappahannock, and decided to organize him and the local people in his community near Camden, New Jersey, as Lenape, Powhatan Lenape. Lenape is not even a thing. He made that up. Powhatan Lenape Nation. There is no such nation. He made up the whole nation. He did this in the 1970s. He went to the colleges. He went to the schools. He talked about the Indian heritage. He was lecturing. He ended up going to South America, making friends, and Canada, all over the place. He was a real politicker. Actually, they say he was like some kind of hustler. They called him Red. He had a nickname, Reds, He was a hustler. But he knew how to politic. And he got all this traction, being friends and company of mayors, governors, presidents, even the King of Sweden. Right? He got New Jersey. Now, if anybody knows New Jersey is a bear to deal with. They're like a police state. They got more rules than a little bit. But he got New Jersey to get him like 200, 300 acres of parkland. It was a lease. And you know, he got that, and he had a little reservation or something put on there. I don't know. I didn't see no pictures of that. But basically, he made something out of nothing. And he didn't do anything for this. There's no Powhatan or Virginia Indians that benefited for this, because there's real Powhatan people in Virginia who can't get nothing. They can't get a part of the recognized tribes, and they can't recognize a tribe for themselves. They're not even trying, because they're calling themselves African American and Black. And Chief Roy, this Roy Johnson, who probably is an Accomack, really, he sat up here and made up a tribe out of nothing in New Jersey. He made a Virginia tribe in New Jersey out of nothing in the 1970s. And he was able to get it so they had this land, and they had like a 45-year or 25-year lease or something like that. And it went out, I think they lost the park, and then they had like 5 acres, and people said it was raggedy, and there was weird people out there making noises and stuff. They were doing things for women groups and witch groups. I don't know what they were doing, but anyway, it was near a residential area, so I think they got booted out of that as well. But guess what? They got recognition. They had it taken away by Governor Christie, and then they got it back again. They got it back again. They are a state recognized tribe that ain't even from New Jersey. They're a New Jersey. They're a completely fabricated tribe that's recognized by New Jersey. And we got real people with real genealogy all over this country who ain't doing nothing about it. Make that make sense. They said this man might have been part Spanish or something. Part something. But he wasn't even all Virginia Indian, but he called himself a Powhatan Lenape, built a whole nation. People love him. You look on his little funeral site, they love him. They love him. Because you can make something out of nothing, and it's okay. It's okay. But you won't even make something out of your real self. You won't even take your real genealogy and do something with it that is substantial and that makes sense. But there are people who have no right to claim your background and no right to claim any kind of heritage that they're claiming, and they are winning every day. They're winning every day. But we're not supposed to fight for our land back with real genealogy and 4 grandparents of the same background. You're not supposed to find out about your people in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. Goddamn, you're not supposed to get back nothing from that? You're not supposed to get anything from Tennessee? But these people are going around pretending to be you, and it's okay. That's what we're used to. We're used to having immigrants come in and pretend to be us and take everything. That's what we're used to. So why shouldn't it continue, right? Why shouldn't we continue to have that happen, where immigrants come in and they benefit off of our family, our lineage? When are we going to learn? When are we going to stop feeling that it's okay for other people to tell us who we are, for us to believe a history that's not a true history, for us to just accept things that are unacceptable? When are we gonna just say enough's enough, and that it's time? We must change now. We must make a change right now. We must expose the truth, and we must be the truth, and we must be the light. Anything to say?
I would suggest that we start doing it now, because these children that are coming up, you've already, I mean, you have Asians, Eastern Europeans coming over here claiming their stuff. This information is slowly but surely getting out, and they're getting it. I have people tell me all the time, they're learning from their children. We're going to look like damn fools in 20 years when your kids ask you, well, how come you didn't tell me this? I didn't know. That's all you're going to say. This is what we're doing to our children. Not telling them nothing, teaching them how to clown, calling them black. This is what the majority of African Americans are doing to their children. Not leaving them nothing. And the cold part about it is, your people left you something, but you won't even use it. Make that make sense. So, like Lisa said, now is the time.
The time is now. I'm going to follow up with this with kind of talking about the steps that, led to my path of enlightenment research and just repatriation of the Accomack Indians. And, just moving forward to the point that it ended up being a lawsuit. Now to the point that I know that there are so many lawsuits that are in the future because they lied about everything. And people that have these massive amounts of land and resources, they got it because they stole your land to begin with. The resources came from that original theft. And of course, then they're able to buy subsequent properties, of course, because they stole your property. And according to what my ancestors have downloaded to me, they just showed up and were like, oh, yeah, we got papers on this. And then just like now, just like today, we only know our 20-year history, right? So we don't know. We don't know that that's not true. We don't even question them. They show up with papers that can't even probably didn't even look at, and say, "Oh yeah, we got papers. We own this, but we'll let you stay on and work." That's what they did. They just showed up and said, yeah, that's why, because when you go to the plantation that my big mama's on, that's why they're all on the waterfront. Because the Indians lived there. It was the chief's main village. It was his main town. So when they got there, we was all living around the water. So they were like, "Oh yeah, you can stay."
You guys
but
are
they
going
had no right to it. They never had right to it.
You're going to trip out when you see houses, I mean, off the hook houses on the river. It's the coldest. They always show you slave shacks and all this rundown stuff. Your folks had cold places on the river. Lisa, explain to them about that, and also talk about your event coming up in October.
Okay, on October 10th, which is Indigenous Peoples Day, formerly known as Columbus Day, that Monday is the Accomack presents the American Indigenous Council Summit, and it's the fourth year, and it's in the Eastern Shore of Virginia in Eastville, and during that summit, we go on tours, we talk about genealogy, we talk about the history, we answer questions live. We usually have a lot of other things going on. It's usually a 3-day event, but this year it's just a 1 day. We're going to hit you with the real deal information. We're going to have, a couple of ceremonies We're going to go to the grave of the chiefs, to the grave of the ancestors. We're going to go to the to some of the slave areas where, you know, in nearby plantations, some of the other grave sites, the shorelines, let you see how we lived, what everything was, how it's situated with the ocean and the bay. We're going to do that and infuse you with a lot of history and a lot of, you know, how to do the real research, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's crazy. When you think about how some of these homes were situated right on the waterfront, waterfront slave cabins, and then you realize that these homes were not obtained legally. So there's no real chain of custody that makes sense, that is actually true. So you have to understand that what they did was they just showed up and they were just like, yeah, I own it, but yeah, you can stay. When all the while they didn't own it. They just was telling the Negro Indians, telling them Indians, we own it. And we're like, well, they say they own it now. Just like when I go to the older cousin's house and I'm like, do you know that that you own that property, all that property back there, that's you know, Spady property? Oh no, those are white Spadies. Nah. The Spadies always been what you are. These people that are calling themselves Spadies took your name. They're not really Spadies. Because when they do their genealogy, y'all can look at Ancestry. Most of these Caucasians that do their genealogy, they have no connectivity. Because if they were connected, they got to be connected to you. Because you are the landowners. Everybody. If they're not connected to you, and the thing about that is that they just plant themselves there with something like a Daughters of the Revolutionary record or something real fragile, and those are all fraudulent. The Daughters of the Revolution, they use those documents to claim your land. This falsification of identification, and they claim that they are connected to revolutionary soldiers so that they can claim land. It's a big old fraud organization. So let me tell you something. When you start looking at this and you start reading books and finding out, Carter G. Woodson, check him out. That brother took the list of the people from the records in the 1920s and compiled the list of free Negroes and free Negro slave owners. And you'll find out half of these people that claim to be, oh, I descended from a slave plantation. My family just goes back in America. Lies. They didn't get here till after 1800, after the fight was fought, after they had the right to daggone hang out over here. That's when they came. No, before that, those people that was taking the land, they were Black Europeans or you. It's your names. You're the Mears. You're the Leatherberry. You're the Upshur. You're the Bagwell. You're the people. They came and took your names because they saw your names on the court records and the deeds, and they were like, aha, that's what we're going to call ourselves. Europeans always come here and change their names. They've been doing that for forever. And they do it for a reason. It's for the land, man. Have a good night, y'all. Next time, we're going to talk about how to proceed with the next steps.